David, you must join us for a musical show that we are having today evening. We'll send you a link for that.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know. You should see it with your family, you know.
Yeah, 6 o'clock it's starting.
Yeah, 6 o'clock. Oh my God, you have the time also. You already booked a seat, eh? Yes. That's going to be the finale of 3-day, that we have had. And
gosh,
yeah, so,
that's amazing.
Yeah, you will get to see a lot of talent and and maybe a chance to work with them in coming times.
Yes. Never.
Yes, the numbers have shot up to 45 now. So 48. I think we can start now. Ramesh ji?
Yes, sir.
Kariye show.
Yes, sir. Let's start. A very, very good afternoon to one and all present here. I, Kritneet Kaur Kohli.
And I, Nandini Bhatnagar.
Welcome you all to the 16th edition of Delhi's largest media festival, Spandan 2020. Vivekananda Institute of Professional Studies, affiliated to GGS IPU, is one of the most promising colleges in our country. We believe in the pursuit of perfection, a place that equips a student with bedrock values of excellence, ethics, and professionalism, a world-class infrastructure, and the network to add to the armor as they begin their careers.
For over a decade, Vivekananda School of Journalism and Mass Communication has led the way to journalism and mass communication's future by providing hands-on experience and intensive training to all its students. Event management is a core subject that is a part of the final year syllabus at VSJMC. Spandan, a mega media festival, is an event management project that all the students have to pursue unanimously. On one project, putting their heart and soul, challenging their creativity to make the media festival worthwhile. Like every year, we at VSGMC have left no stone unturned to make Spandan as exquisite as it is every year. We know that this year has proved grim for all of us. With the pandemic, face-to-face interactions have been replaced by virtual communication. With digital literacy as our theme of Spandan 2020, we shall learn in today's masterclass how the event management industry plans to work in an environment that essentially lacks physical space.
I'd like to welcome Professor Siddharth Mishra, Chairperson VSJMC VSIT, and Professor Dr. Charulata Singh, Dean VSJMC. Professor Siddharth Mishra is a print journalist, a TV panelist, and the author with more than 25 years of experience, with his major interests in democratic functioning at grassroots. He has covered every general election since 1996 and been a legislative parliamentary reporter for long years. In course of his reporting duties, he has traveled to the Gulf, Africa, Afghanistan, Taiwan, and Ireland. Presently, he is the Professor Chairperson, Media Studies, Vivekananda Institute of Professional Studies, GGS IP University at New Delhi. Sir, you inspire us every single day to follow the precepts of Swami Vivekananda, who said, doing work is not a religion, but doing rightly leads to freedom. You taught us that it is freedom which enshrines a character and navigates intellect to blossom into comprehensive learning.
Professor Dr. Charulata Singh, Dean, Department of Media Studies, WIPS, is a renowned media academician with around 22 years of experience in media and media education. She has been part of WIPS for more than 15 years. She has 8 books, 13 chapters, around 70 paper publications, and paper presentations to her credit. She has copyright for the concept individual social responsibility and for coining the word digiteracy. She is a resource person to various universities and is widely traveled to 21 countries for personal and professional reasons. A poetess at heart, she has been awarded Economic Women Creating Better World for All by World Women Economic Forum. Ma'am, we derive our strength from your support and the rock solid value system that you preach us every day. Your guidance and love for our students has been pivotal to each one of our growth.
It has been 16 years. Spandan is a part of our core subject, event management. Though we are stuck in a pandemic, we can still see a silver lining, and that is that we could have made this international masterclass possible. That too, with the master of the event management industry, Professor David Hind, President, Asia Pacific Institute for Event Management, Oakwood Grange Lane, Leeds, United Kingdom. It would be an honor, Siddharth sir, if you could welcome our guest for today's masterclass.
Thank you so much. It's my great privilege to be with you today, and I look forward to sharing my thoughts with you in a few minutes' time.
Siddharth sir, please. You're on mute, sir.
Yes, David, thank you so much for making it to us, to our institute online. Although we have had the pleasure of, seeing you perform on our auditorium stage too. So, and you are a showman. I would say to the students that David is a showman, and, he actually takes the class of event management to very, very different level. And he's a showman and he's a dancing old man. So we all look forward to your class today, David, and I'm very sure we are going to enjoy every bit of it. And we are going to have fun and we are going to have education.
Thank you so much.
So looking forward to it, David.
Thank you so much.
We are honored to have you here as part of Spandan this year, sir. I would like to tell our audience that today's masterclass is brought to you by Vivekananda School of Journalism and Mass Communication in an association with the Asia Pacific Institute for Event Management, Asia's #1 professional institute for events education. So now, let the masterclass commence to educate us on the future of the event industry post the COVID-19 era.
Oh, wait. Before we begin with the masterclass, I would like to encourage the audiences to type in your doubts and the questions in the Q&A box right there. That will be taken up at the end of the lecture. So, sir, may I ask you a little small question before we get into the lecture?
Yes, please.
I would like you to explain to our audiences what event management actually is. Think like you're explaining it to a 7-year-old, and we are here to listen.
Yeah, if I was speaking to a 7-year-old, I would say that an event is a birthday party. It's an occasion where people come together to be together, to share and to celebrate and to have a tremendous fun time. So that for me is a very simple definition of what events is, bringing people together in person to share experiences and to have a memorable experience.
Well, that does enriches us. We get an idea of what event is. Let's begin with the presentation, sir.
Thank you so much. So thank you so much for inviting me to join with you at your wonderful VIPS College today. It's my pleasure to be talking with you about the events industry post-COVID-19. So I'll speak for probably 35, 40 minutes, and then I'm very happy to answer questions which anybody would like to put to me. But I'll just say, first of all, where I'm joining you from today. As you can probably tell, I'm not with you in beautiful Delhi, but I'm in the United Kingdom, and I'm in my home city of Leeds, which is right in the heart of the United Kingdom. So that's where I'm speaking with you from today. And I'm speaking with you from my office in APM House, which is in the city of Leeds. So this is where I am today, and it's my great pleasure to spend time with you talking about the events industry before and after COVID-19. But before I start my presentation, I think it's important just to say a few words about APM. And APM is the Asia Pacific Institute for Events Management. We are a membership organization, and we have individual members who are event professionals or event faculty lecturers in all of those countries. So we're a true international membership organization. We also have institutional members, and institutional members are universities, polytechnics, or colleges that include a study of events as part of their curriculum. And currently, we have institutional members in those countries. And as you'll see, we're looking for our first institutional member from India, and it may well be that the wonderful VIPS is our first institutional member in India. So we are a membership organization, and we are here to contribute to the professionalization of the events industry in the Asia Pacific region. That's what our mission is. For further information about APM, please visit our website, www.theapm.com. And if you are a Facebook fanatic, then please send a friend request to join a closed group that we have, which is APM Student Membership. And we also have an open Facebook page, which is just simply APM. So we communicate a lot of information through social media, and those are two of our social media channels, which you're very welcome to join today or tomorrow when you've got time to visit us on Facebook. So that was just a very brief introduction to APM. And this is my first visit to VIPS. Today I'm visiting virtually, but I had the great pleasure of visiting your beautiful campus with its fantastic resources in February 2019. And I sincerely hope that later in 2021, I'll be able to revisit again and meet your wonderful faculty team, your wonderful faculty professors, and yourselves in person again. So I really do look forward to being able to return to VIPS when travel restrictions permit. Today, because we're having a virtual meeting, there's no singing, there's no dancing today, but I can assure you, when I do return in person, I look forward to being on that beautiful stage of yours and having a very interactive communication session with you on my next visit. But I really did enjoy my visit to VIPS in February 2019. So my presentation today is really to consider the future shape of the international events industry. So I'm stressing international because I know that there are so many wonderful events in India, but I'm going to take an international perspective today, and I'm going to be sharing with you some factors that I think will influence the recovery of the events industry. So that's what I'm going to be talking with you about today. But I'm going to start off by putting 2020 into context. And then I'll move into the early months of 2021. And then I'll look at what the events industry should be like when we get to the middle and end of 2021 and into 2022. But first of all, I'm going to reflect upon 2020. And I don't have to repeat this message because we all know this message so very well, but I will do because it's part of my presentation. And it is that in 2020, all over the world, every single country in the world, the message has been stay at home. And really, this, as we all know, has been the most unprecedented time in our generation's life as humans on this earth. Stay at home. And to some extent, we could say that 2020 was the year that went wrong. I know that from my own perspective, in December 2019, I was looking forward to a fantastic 2020, but 2020 was the year that went wrong. And in 2019, in the cartoon at the top, life was normal. We could go outside, we could go to the zoo, we could go to the shopping centres, and at the zoo, we would be looking at the animals in their cages. But in 2020, the position reversed. In 2020, we have to stay at home, and it's the wonderful wildlife that is looking in on us. So the year went wrong, 2020. Our lives were turned upside down, and it was a major shock to all of us who'd enjoyed a previous liberal way of life in the previous years. And in 2020, new terms came into our vocabulary: unprecedented, quarantine, pandemic. Very few of us, perhaps in Europe, had heard of these or used these words before. But in 2020, most of the year disappeared into quarantine. And we're still living in quarantine in many, many countries of the world today. And the impact of this on the events industry was that live in-person events were either postponed to 2021 or cancelled. And just like many other sectors of the economy, the events industry has suffered very severely through 2020 because it's not been able to operate in person with live events. And in 2020, the days just merged into one. Was it Sunday? Was it Monday? Was it Tuesday? The days just merged into one. But something which really helped to bring us all back together was Zoom and other apps, applications for communication. And I'm not sure how many people had heard of Zoom in 2019, but in 2020, going into 2021, I'm sure that so many people all over the world are now familiar with the means of communicating using digital technology. And I like this particular picture because when we are just using Zoom for audio, we don't have to take care of our personal appearance. But when we're using Zoom with video, we have to think carefully about how we look and how we appear on screen. But the use of digital technology has brought the events industry into some form of activity in 2020. And we've seen so many virtual webinars. And today is a wonderful webinar, I hope, for you, brought by the wonderful final year students. And webinars have really taken off as a means of keeping in touch and of keeping the events industry operational during times of quarantine. So we've seen so many different webinars, And the benefits of these types of communication is that we can have thousands of delegates from all over the world. So again, I think this has been one of the big opportunities that we've faced in the events industry in 2020, realizing that we can now stage and host events for international audiences. It is possible for us all to be at home and to participate in virtual events. So the benefits of virtual events are many, and I won't go through all of these that you can see on the screen now. I'll just pick out 2 or 3, but we have had no alternative during the COVID-19 pandemic. In-person events have been banned from taking place. So we've had to use alternative means to communicate, and webinars are one way of doing that. Another benefit, as we've said, is that webinars can attract large audiences. And from the event planner's perspective, they are fairly easy to organize. We're using technology. We don't need to hire a venue. We don't need to contract for food and beverage, because we can all enjoy our own food and beverage that we provide for ourselves. So virtual events are fairly quick to organize. They are a lower cost for the event planner, and they are less risky because we're not entering into contracts for different suppliers for the event. They're more accessible. Many more people, perhaps with special needs, can join us. And they're more sustainable because I don't have to travel by plane to India today, but I can be with you through digital technology. So there have been benefits of learning about technology in 2020. But for a professional event organizer's perspective, there are challenges for staging virtual events. And a big challenge for a professional event organizer is the return on investment. Are people willing to pay to attend a virtual event? And if they're not, then what does that mean for a professional event organizer whose business is staging events? So a big challenge of virtual events for a professional event organizer is, can you make money out of organizing a virtual event? Can you charge a registration fee that will generate an income for you? Other challenges of virtual events is that they are one-dimensional, really. We are all looking at our screens. Our screens might be a mobile phone, there might be a laptop, but we are just looking at a screen in front of us, and there's no face-to-face, in-person interaction. So again, that's going back to the first question, what would I tell a 7-year-old about events? They are about sharing experiences, memorable experiences, and we can't really do that in the same way through technology. And then the final thing that I'll just say about the challenge of virtual events is that we will experience digital fatigue. We can't look at a screen like this for probably more than 40, 50, 60 minutes because we lose concentration, we can easily switch off, and we can change our behavior. We can go and do something else. So again, keeping the attention of the participants is not a challenge. It can be done, but it's not the same as if we are in person and we have that face-to-face interaction with the people who are attending our in-person event. So whilst 2020 has been a disastrous year for the international events industry, one silver lining has been we've become more familiar with using digital technology for organizing online events. But the events industry is a people industry, and it's an industry where we provide immersive opportunities for our participants. When we go to a music festival, concert, we want to be clapping, we want to be singing, we want to be dancing, we want to be sharing this experience with our friends who've gone to that event with us. So the events industry is a people industry with immersive opportunities, and we can't have that same experience using online technology. But I think it is good news that we are on the road to recovery. It might still be a long road. Hopefully, it's a fairly straight road. Hopefully, there's not too many traffic lights or traffic jams for us. But I hope that we are on the road to recovery. And the reason why I say I hope is because we all know, I hope that you all know that there are 3 vaccines which are now ready. And here in the UK, we're actually starting our vaccination process next week with the most vulnerable members of society. And in the United Kingdom, we hope that the vast majority of the population will have received a COVID-19 coronavirus vaccine by April of next year. And I appreciate that in India, your population is so vast, so enormous, but we have to hope that the vaccines will be available all over the world. And in particular, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, which doesn't require any special storage facilities in order to transport it into the areas where people live and work. So we have to think positively now. I'm a very positive person. You might not be able to see this, but my glass is always full. It's never half full, it's always full. And we have to think positively. We have to thank our scientists all over the world for the work that they've done in bringing these vaccines so quickly to us in ready for a vast inoculation program. So I'm going to move now to say, well, what does all of this mean for events in early 2021? So my next part of my presentation is really thinking about January, February, March, and April. And it's thinking again about the international events industry. Each country is different in where it sits and getting ready to open the events industry. But I'm going to be thinking about January, February, March, and April 2021. And the first question is, will in-person events return? The answer is yes, yes, yes. Because again, as we've said already, events are points of connection. So I've got some more answers to this question. Will in-person events return? Yes, they will. But the challenge is, how soon after lockdown ends do you stage an event? And an answer to that question is that it will be based on the type and size of event that you're organizing. It will be based upon the government regulations in your country, the World Health Organization recommendations for sanitation, and participant behavior. So there's a lot in that particular answer. So in the United Kingdom, we're starting to plan to open our events industry. Now, 2,000 people can attend a sporting event in an outside arena. Next year, January, February, more people can attend a wedding At the moment, it's 15 people, but in the new year, maybe 30, 40, 50 people. But we will follow the government recommendations. And also, it will take into account participant behavior. When will event goers feel confident about going back into an event venue? When will they feel safe and secure to do so? So there's a lot in that answer which is in yellow. The other answer to when will in-person events return is in this red answer here. It does take a minimum of 12 weeks to drive an audience for an event. It takes a minimum of 12 weeks to market an event to attract participants. 12 weeks, 3 months, if it's an in-person event, if it's a professional event. So if we can start staging events from January, it's not going to be until March or April when professional events start to return. So a minimum of 12 weeks. And again, we're still talking about January, February, March, and April. When in-person events return, we will still be subject to external controls imposed by national governments. So we are still going to be in this new normal period in January, February, March, and April. And all event venues, all event planners will have to do a very thorough risk assessment to identify all the possible aspects of that event that could cause harm to the participants. So risk assessments are going to be very important in enabling in-person events to start again. And it's the responsibility of the event manager to do the risk assessment and then to put in place measures to prevent harm from occurring. And we will see, this will be a feature of events in January, February, March, and April. Monitors when we arrive at the venue to take our temperature, to not demonstrate we don't have COVID-19, but as an added measure to make us think again about going to an event. In the event spaces, the sanitation, the disinfection will continue throughout January, February, March, and April to enable the participants to feel healthy and safe and secure in the venue that they're going to. So we will see health checks, hygiene, and sanitation in the first part of 2021. And it's likely that in January, February, March, and April, it will still be small-scale events. And those small-scale events are likely to have social distancing measures in place. Normally, when we go to a nightclub or another music event, we don't want to sit down, we want to be standing up, and we want to be fully immersed in the excitement of the music and showing off our dancing techniques. But unfortunately, for the first part of 2021, social distancing, hygiene, and sanitation will be what to be expected. And then moving beyond the first part of 2021, what other factors could influence the recovery of the live events, again thinking about the international industry? And a big factor will be the temporary travel restrictions that countries put in place. How long will these last? And where will the travel corridors appear which are quarantine safe? So a big question that we don't know the answer to at the moment is what will be the reaction of national governments to opening up their borders for international tourists and business people arriving. And I do have a problem because I'm from the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, we've had the worst number of deaths from COVID-19 in Europe. And if, when travel restrictions permit, I want to travel to wonderful India or other parts of Asia, will I be allowed into that country because I've come from the United Kingdom? So what will the travel restrictions be? And will I have to go into quarantine on arrival? So if I have to go into quarantine on arrival in a destination country, I personally would not choose to do so. So I think that this will have an impact upon the return of international events in the middle of 2021. What will be the quarantine and travel restrictions? And next year, international air travel will be challenging. It'll be challenging because there's also going to be health checks at airports. When we arrive for check-in, do we have to produce a COVID-19 passport to demonstrate that we are COVID-free? Do we have to take a health check before we get on the plane? Do we have to take a health check when we arrive at the airport? So for a business person who might be going to attend a conference or an exhibition in an international country, they won't be prepared to spend this amount of time as part of their journey. And instead, their employer will say, have a virtual event instead, have an online event. So there's these big factors which will affect the return of the international events industry. And there's implications for venues. So we've started to think about their hygiene, but how do we register people at an event in the future? Traditionally, we might have to queue in line, but now in the future, it might be registration online. Room layouts will have to be different, as we've said already, in January, February, and March. Self-service buffets will need to be managed effectively so that people don't all squash together and crowd together around the buffet. And some of the nice etiquettes of attending an in-person event, shaking hands, exchanging business cards, being close together over a coffee break, we'll have to think again about those social activities in a venue. So there's quite a lot which is going to affect the return of large international events in the first part of 2021. So now I'm going to think beyond April, and now we're going to be thinking about the events industry post-COVID-19, hopefully when the vaccination is rolled out to many countries around the world, and we can start thinking about returning to normal. So this is mid-2021 and into 2022. So what does the landscape look like for events in the next 18 months? Well, the first thing I think which we'll all be very happy to see the end of is social distancing. So when we are able to kiss, to hug, to touch, to be close to one another, that will be a major step forward for everybody all over the world. Social distancing will end, and that will be a big sign that we are returning to what life was like in 2019. The big trade fairs, the big exhibitions will return. So very important for the international events industry. Large numbers of people coming together in a single location to exchange information, to buy and sell products and services. These will return once we are in a post-COVID-19 situation. And the wonderful outdoor music festivals, which take place all over the world, where we jam together to be close to the stage, to jump up and down, to shout, to sing, to enjoy, to have a party, that also will be part of our world in post-COVID-19. So what I'm saying really is that once we get into the middle of 2021, and as we move into 2022, the events industry will return to what it was like in 2019. We're going back to the normal that we enjoyed so much 12 months ago. But I'm going to share this quotation with you. I'm not sure if you know Arundhati Roy, who is an Indian author. I can see one or two nods of heads in the audience today. But this is a very important quotation from Arundhati Roy. Historically, pandemics have forced humans to break and change. This pandemic is no different. The pandemic is a portal, a gateway between this world and the next. So I think that's a very, very good and very, very important quotation, because I think someone's speaking, because all pandemics, we hopefully don't have them too often, maybe 100 years, but they are a portal between one world and the next. So how has this coronavirus pandemic changed our world in events? And what will the next world in events look like as a result of the coronavirus pandemic? And this is a little bit of speculation now, a little bit of thinking into the future. But I think from 2021, we will have to think again about how we design and host professional events in a different way. So yes, we will go back to the in-person event. Yes, we will have no longer social distancing, but the shape of events are likely to be improved because of the pandemic. And it really is going to be event technology that will change the shape of events for the future. And now, internationally, we are familiar with using contactless technology, online payments, online registration, facial recognition for registration at an event. This is going to increase in the future, and we will become even more accustomed to using contactless technology for events we go to. We're going to see, I think, gamification at both in-person and online events, because they give us a way of engaging and creating experiences for our participants. We know about esports, we know about the Xbox, we know about all of those computer games. They will start to be developed and adapted for the events industry to give an immersive experience for participants. And again, this isn't happening at the moment, but it could well happen later in 2022. Online dating technology for event participants. If we go to a business event, a conference, or an exhibition, it may well be that the event app that we use enables us to upload our image, our profile, and we can flick through right and left. And when we come across somebody who's also at that event, we can meet them. So online dating technology, I'm sure, will very soon be adapted for in-person events. And it could also take place at music festivals. We have an app for the music festival. We upload our face, our image, our profile, and we can check to see who we'd like to meet up, who's at that event as well. And also, this is just something which I've sort of included from my own perspective, is we're going to see, I think, the Netflixization of events. And today's a very good example. Today's event is being recorded and it's being streamed, it's being recorded, but the recording could go into a streaming service for events. And just like we go to Netflix to watch movies and TV programs, we can go to a event streaming application, and all of the events which have been recorded can be uploaded, and then we will choose which events to look at in our own time using the Netflixization of events technology. And the big challenge that technologists, I'm sure, will be working on is when we are sitting at home like this, enjoying a webinar or an online event, how can this experience be made more in person? So the technology isn't here at the moment, but it might be here in 2022, 2023. How can an experience that we're having today through technology be even more personalized? How can it be made an in-person event? And the future, and I think this is where you're in a very good position at VIPS, is that event planners in the future will become television directors. You will have the technology. You've got a beautiful recording studio at your campus, and I was fortunate to go there in February 2019. And event planners will become TV directors because it could all be about technology, how to integrate sound, light, music, staging, as if you're organizing a TV program. So when I teach about events these days, I say to the people that I'm teaching, you will be a TV director, you will be a film director, because this is the way I think that events are going in the future. And event technologists who can devise amazing online events will never be out of work. So again, you're in a great position in India, the home of some fantastic technology. Just keep abreast of what's happening in technology. And the events world, we have now an events industry technology ecosystem. And again, I think that this is something which has accelerated so quickly in 2020. We've probably moved forward 5 years in the space of 12 months because of COVID-19. And in the events industry, we work with general technology experts who are skilled in digital technology and the way in which digital technology can be used for many different purposes. And in the events industry, we then have specialists who know about events and who can see the application of technology for the events industry. We then have our creative event planners, people who maybe not so experienced in technology, but are very good at creating fantastic events. And they then network and work with creative event technology designers. So this events industry technology ecosystem is what will be shaping and driving events in 2021, 2022, 2023. We are now in this new world of event technology. And the future is going to be hybrid events, the TEDx talks, which are in person and beamed live and recorded, as well as continuing with webinars because of all the advantages that we talked out before. So really, what I'm saying about the future is that we will return to in-person events because they are irreplaceable. But we will see event technology continuing to drive forward and shape how events are hosted and created and staged. And I think that's one of the legacies of COVID-19. But, so this is a big but. The return of the international events industry in each country will depend on the size of the economic storm that will follow the COVID-19 pandemic. So again, we have to be realistic. We have to expect that in the months in 2021, 2022, national economies will be suffering from an economic storm because governments have had to spend so much money in keeping their economies alive, investing in health and science, and that investment costs money, and that money has to be repaid. But each country is different depending upon the government intervention. But will it be an economic typhoon,
Hello.
surge, or a tsunami? And I have to say that in the United Kingdom, we're expecting the economic storm post-COVID-19 to be a tsunami. Our government has borrowed so much money in order to keep our economy going that we have a major national debt that will have to be repaid into generations into the future. And that will affect the willingness of companies, governments to enable their employees to participate in business events internationally. So whilst we are seeing the road to recovery from a health perspective, we're just at the beginning of the economic storm that will follow COVID-19. So I'm sorry to have to include this in the presentation, but it's a reality that many countries around the world will face. So which jobs in events will be booming after COVID-19? And I think that you can probably anticipate what I'm going to say. Anything to do with event technology, if you are somebody who likes technology, who is creative with technology, your future career will be certain. And if you can design a virtual event that is truly immersive, interactive, and meaningful, you will have a fantastic career in events. So people who are naturally tech people, technologically based people, fantastic for you in the future. Something else which the pandemic has demonstrated to us is that we must be prepared for emergencies. So people who are good at crisis management, risk management, emergency planning, good careers ahead for this type of person in the future. And I'm coming to the end of my presentation now, and I'm just going to leave you with a quotation that is 200 years old, from Charles Darwin, one of the great scientists of 200 years ago. And he said, it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. And I think that that quotation is as true as it was in the 1800s, and it's so true today in 2020. It's not the survival of the strongest or the most intelligent that survives. It's the one that is the most adaptable to change. And that is something which I think for the events industry will contribute to the success of an event organizing company. Can you adapt to the change that I've been thinking about in my presentation today? So I hope that you have a COVID-19 happy and safe Christmas. It's still 20 days away, but I hope that you are able to enjoy the Christmas season with your friends and family in a COVID-19 happy and safe way. I look forward to returning to VIPS in 2021 when travel restrictions permit, and I look forward to seeing your technology studio and how it's being used for the organizing of events on your campus. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm very happy now to answer any questions that you have on what I've been speaking about or on any other subject. So I'm going to stop my slide sharing and revert to the gallery view to see everybody who's with us today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That was definitely a very learning experience for all of us. We have some of the we have some questions in the question box. So we would like to begin if you give us permission with the questions.
Yep. So I can.
Okay. So the first, yes, sir. We can hear you now. We can hear you. So we have some questions, sir. We have some questions in the chat box and the question box. So, our faculty member, Dr. Praveen Kumar Singh, has asked, how do you see exhibitions and trade shows being organized in a digital platform in time to come?
Thank you very much for that very good question. And the answer is that the technology exists today for holding a virtual exhibition. So virtual exhibitions take place today. The technology exists. And the way that it works, if I very quickly explain to you, there is the technology platform. The exhibitors are able to put their company products and services digitally onto that platform. And then participants will go into the platform. And a very simple way for me to explain it is that they will click onto the image of the company that they want to speak with. When they click on the image of that company, they will then have a personal opportunity to communicate in virtual means with a representative of that company. So that the technology exists, virtual exhibitions take place, and obviously not quite the same as being in person, but it is possible to have a virtual exhibition.
Well, sir, that was an excellent presentation, and I hope you, Praveen sir, you've got the answer to your question. We do have more questions coming in. Please, can we take up some questions right now?
So, sir, there are some questions in the chat box, Q&A box. I will ask them.
Yeah.
Please,
There's one question by Kartik Chawla. He asks, how to deal with the element of uncertainty while planning for any event in future during these times?
Yeah. So again, a very, very important question, how to deal with uncertainty. So this is something which every event organizer has to take into account when planning an event. And it's partly down to doing a very thorough risk assessment of everything that could go wrong in staging the event, and then having in place strategies to overcome the difficulties that might arise. So it's nothing unusual for an event planner to think about everything that could go wrong. So if you're organizing an outdoor event with thousands and thousands of people, you always have to think about the weather. You have to think about people falling ill. You have to think about a terrorist attack. And in the future, we will also have to include within our risk assessments the possibility of a pandemic affecting our event. So it's all part of the planning process. And you will always have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. And it's what we teach our event students: always do a risk assessment and try to identify everything that could go wrong with your event and have a plan of action to implement if something does go wrong with your event. So thank you for asking that question.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question is by Mansi Arora. She asks, what do you think is the roadmap of getting things back on track in monetary and financial terms?
Yeah. So I'll speak from a United Kingdom perspective, and then you'll hopefully be able to put that into an Indian context. So what's happening in the UK to get back into action for the events industry is that our national government is producing many guidelines on how to open events safely. So there's a lot of information on how to organize a safe sports event, how to organize a safe business event, how to organize a safe music event. So the roadmap is determined by our government in the United Kingdom, and you can't stage an event if you don't follow the guidelines. If you stage an event and you don't follow the guidelines, then you are breaking the law and you're subject to prosecution. So the first thing to say is follow the guidelines of the government and make sure that you follow them. And then from the event organizer's perspective, they have to take a decision. They have to decide, is it going to be financially viable for me to stage an event if I follow these government guidelines? So the event organizer will do a business modeling. What is the income? What is the expenditure? Will I make a financial surplus by staging this event? And if they feel that they won't make a financial surplus, then they have to decide, is it worth staging the event just as a means of my company keeping its participants loyal to our company and doing something as a not a charitable event, but as an event just to keep the interest of our potential customers. So my answer to that question is twofold. You have to follow the government guidelines. And then secondly, you have to do financial modeling to see whether it's financially viable and worthwhile for you to stage an event under these restrictions.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering that question. We just have two more questions to go. Ankur Upreti asks, he has a question related to the virtual conduct of events. There's a huge difference between the logistics of a physical and a virtual event. So can you please suggest some tips for the logistics of any virtual event to make it run smoothly?
Yeah. So it's very true that organizing a virtual event is very different to organizing an in-person event. But I'll start off by saying that the principles for organizing a virtual event are the same as the principles for organizing an in-person event. The principles are the same. And the principles are that you have to have creativity, you have to tell a story, you have to give the participants a memorable experience, and you have to use very good design for your event, whether it's in person or virtual. The big difference between the two is that for the virtual event, there is no venue. For the in-person event, there is a venue. And that means that a lot of the costs of staging an event are lower for the virtual event because you don't have to hire the venue, and it's less risky because you don't have to go into contracts which have cancellation clauses and the like if something can't proceed. So the logistics for a virtual event are down to technology. And with technology, there are many different professional event technology companies that will supply the technological platform for you to host a professional event. There are companies all over the world that are technology specialists that will host the event. They will host an exhibition, they will host a conference, a convention, many different types. They will do the live streaming for you. So the logistical challenge can be taken away from you if you decide to use a professional company, but you would obviously pay them a fee for them staging and hosting the event on your behalf. But the key to success with any event is rehearse, 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 and rehearse. And I'm not sure how many rehearsals you've had for today's event, but last week, APM, we organized a virtual conference and we had 8 technical rehearsals in order to stage the event, because it was a multi-activity conference with different rooms, different speakers, and different activities. So we rehearsed 8 times. So whenever it's an in-person or a virtual event, the principles are the same, the context is different, and you still have to rehearse, rehearse, rehearse to make sure that any of the technical or logistical challenges are overcome.
Those are some valuable tips indeed, sir. Now, the final question of the day is by Samat Malhotra. How much does the concept of bio bubble makes an event a safe place, like the IPL, which were held in the UAE, NBA and UFC in the US? It seems like a lot of work to be put into an event. So how much does the concept of bio bubble make an event a safe place?
Yeah. So I'm not familiar with the costs or the concept of a bio bubble, but again, I think that a lot of event professionals are just waiting a few more months. And I think a lot of event professionals are looking forward to the middle and end of 2021, when it may well be that bio bubbles are not required in the same way as they are at the moment. So bio bubbles, my understanding would be that they enable an in-person event to take place in a safe, hygienic location. But the cost will be expensive, inevitably. But for a professional event organizer, I would say, if you don't want to cover the costs of that bio bubble, just wait a few more months. And hopefully by the end of 2021 into 2022, we will be returning to a more normal event industry that we enjoyed in 2019. But I'm not an expert, unfortunately, on bio bubbles.
Thank you for fulfilling our doubts and answering them, Professor. Thank you for helping us keep up with our passion even in these times like such. Our audiences have certainly learned a lot from the masterclass today. We are glad to learn so much from your experiences and all that we have discussed today. We are immensely grateful to you for that. Now, I would like to call our Dean, Dr. Charulata Singh, to conclude this session with her kind words. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Nandini. Thank you. And first of all, I would like to tell David, the experience of this session was no less than the experience which we had in our auditorium, the last year.
Yes.
So it was an equally engaging and equally immersive experience for all of us. We really enjoyed the session. And if I talk about the session, you have completely, like a canvas, you have drawn from today till the another 2 years, the whole journey of the events, how they are going to be and what has happened, in 2020, how the events shifted online, from we have gone to webinars, how the technology played the role, and how the whole event industry events started working and having online. And then you have just discussed about how the events, when they will start returning in the early 2021, they will follow with the lot of regulations from the government, from the WHO. The safety and security will remain the main issues. And of course, the event managers have to calculate the risks. The risk assessment has to be taken. So that means that event managers have to be much more responsible in such situations when they start having these smaller events. And then when you talked about the bigger events happening or international events happening, of course, it is going to depend upon what kind of restrictions the other country has. So it is more, on the countries will decide, about the events happening in across the world. And of course, if beyond that, in 2022, probably if everything opens up, we will have bigger events, the trade fairs or exhibitions or music concerts, etc. But again, it will lot depend upon the economy of the particular country, and of course the social, political, economic, and technological aspects. All of them are going to be considered before having the events. But anyhow, so the other day when during the Spandan only, we had the talk show, and the students asked how the Spandan is going to be organized next year. So I just said that it is going to be a blended event, and that is what you said, that it is going to be hybrid events, which is the coming in the future. So of course, because because of the economy, the businesses have to see whether the event is feasible in person or online. So that is, I think, beautifully you have taken us through this whole aspect of the events happening, the future of the events, and also you have very well guided our students for their career prospects in events. If they want to go, they have to use technology. They need to know how to organize virtual events, how to use the virtual spaces. So this is very, very important. And of course, the crisis management they need to learn, because all kind of crisis, the future, I think, is there are going to be different kinds of crises which they may have to handle. So they have to be prepared for all that. And of course, as Charles Darwin's you ended with, we need to be really more adaptable to the various things, and keep on evolving, keep on learning, and looking out for the future. And so that's yeah, it is wonderful to have you. And it was really a master class from the master. And we would definitely love to have you in our campus whenever the situation improves. And we look forward to having you and having a wonderful session again with you. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And thank you so much for those very kind words. And I definitely will be looking forward to returning to your wonderful campus and meeting yourself and your faculty colleagues and students, hopefully later in 2021.
Yeah, sure. Let's hope for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor. It really, indeed, it was an enriching session, a very informative one. Does gear up us for the future. Now we're just ready to waltz right into the event management industry. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank and congratulate Dr. Ramesh Kumar Sharma, our faculty coordinator, for thank you for helping us curate this event. I'd like to thank Dr. Manoj Singh. I'd like to thank Dr. Praveen Singh, Dr. Sunil Kumar Sharma, and Mr. Anurag Gupta for helping us reach here and helping us reach make Spandan what it is today. I would also extend a thank you note to the management of Vivekananda School of Journalism and Mass Communication. I, Kritneet Kaur Kohli, on behalf of the event management masterclass team, including Nandini Bhatnagar, Shantanu Ghosh, Archit Malhotra, Roshni Jain, Mana Elavadi, and Namanisa, without whom we couldn't have pulled this event off. I thank our audiences for joining in today. Before we wrap this up,